I'm going to run through a short playbook on Python loops. We're going to cover some for loops, a while loop, understanding the range, how to do an iteration, how to control loops with break and continue, and why we want to avoid infinite loops. First thing we're going to do here is get our kernel. We should already have a Python environment. Here it is starred. We're going to restart our playbook. So loops are paramount in programming because you generally want a computer to do work for you, so you certainly want to do work over and over again, even in your own program. So an example of something you want to do is you want to process 3 orders. You don't want to write 3 print statements. You want the computer to handle that. So the first loop we'll go through is a for loop. The for loop uses an iterator. It can be any variable. A lot of times they use I for iterator just as a shortcut. Using this kind of nomenclature, another programmer looks at your code, they know what I is. So it's good to use that. We're going to run this loop, and we see that we have 5 outputs, but the first one starts with 0. The reason it starts with 0 is computers like to count starting with 0. So what it's doing is it's printing for each iterator, I variable, in range. It runs this until it reaches 5. Well, starting at 0, it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. As soon as it sees that 5, it stops. It does not run that next one. This may not be what you want. You may want to control the numbers. This example shows that you're starting your range at 1 and you're going to 6. So in this case, it's going to start with 1, and when it reaches 6, it is then going to stop. It is not going to run this indented code. Iteration is the same thing, but I have an example later that shows how you can iterate through a list of items in Python. So in this case, you're actually using this I in your iteration output. Very similar to the order. You're just using that variable I to show anybody reading the code that you're intending to simply iterate through this range. You could change this range 4 to 10, and you're going to start at 4, but you're never going to print 10 because as soon as it sees 10, it will stop and it will not run that. So there we go, starting at 4, and we're going to go to 9. Another thing you can do is you can control this, what numbers it skips each time. So if we add 2 in here, now we have a step and it's going to count by 2s. 4, 6, 8. Again, it stops when it reaches 10 and it does not run that code. The other kind of loop that you'll do in Python is a while loop. It's a little different because it actually evaluates the expression here. You can put any evaluation that'll work in an if statement or anywhere else, and you're going to just check. And this is going to loop while this expression equals true. It'll evaluate it each time. So in this case, we're going to start with a count of 0, and we're going to look at the variable count, and we're going to evaluate, is that count less than 5? Now, we know when we start, 0 is less than 5, and it's going to tell you that the count is 0. Here, you're incrementing a single value of 1 to your variable count. So it is now going to be 1. It'll come back up to the top of the loop, and it's going to evaluate count is less than 5. Well, your count is now 1. Less than 5 is true. And this will occur all the way until count is 5. And at the point where it is 5, it will evaluate at the top of the loop. Count is less than 5. Well, when count equals 5, it is no longer less than 5, and it is going to evaluate as false, and it will not run any more of this code. Now, in this example, it uses an incrementer. So this is a shortcut in Python. Other programming languages have various shortcuts. but the Python is going to be plus equal 1, and that's going to tell you that I'm going to take the current value and I'm going to add this 1, and now it equals that. You can also use this for minus. So you could actually do count minus equals 1. And that is going to be very similar to count equals count minus 1. Just as an incrementer would be count equals count plus 1. Just a quick shortcut in Python. And we can actually do this by more. So I can say count plus equal for 4. And as you can imagine, it's going to add 4 to 0. Now it's 4. The next time through, it's going to be 8. And this statement now evaluates as false. There are two basic ways to control a loop within the actual loop. And the first one is a break. So you can evaluate with this if statement, if the order equals 4, we're going to print that there's a problem with the order, and we're going to break. And that is going to exit that current, it's going to exit the loop completely. So as soon as it hits order 4 and it sees a problem, we execute this break. That loop's over, it's done. It'll stop immediately. The other way to do it is with continue, and continue will only stop the current iteration of the loop. So if you have an order here going 1 to 5, 1 through 5, then the order equals 3, it prints skipping the order, and it doesn't run anymore while order equals 3. It continues through the loop, but it does not run this processing order print. So that's an example of how if something occurs in the loop and you don't want to continue that iteration, you use the continue statement to tell it, continue the loop, but not that iteration. Now, where Python loops get really fun is working through some of the data structures, which we'll cover in another video. But in this case, what you need to know is that vegetable list has 5 vegetables. So we're going to use the for loop, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually call out a new variable that equals a single item in that list. And we're going to say, hey, we're eating vegetable, and it's going to pull that variable from here into the loop, and we can print that out. So it's going to go through each item in that list. Now, I think this helps understand how the range command works if you look at it in the way that if we print the length of the vegetable list, we'll see that we have 5 vegetables. Similar to range command, we're starting at 0 and we're going to 5. We're not actually printing the 5th item, but we are printing 5. We're just starting with 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the same as what we're doing in a range command. The way that Python numbers items in a list starts with 0. So though we have 5 vegetables, they're not numbered 1 through 5, they're numbered 0 through 4. So you can see an example here. If we print the range of the length of the vegetable list, which we know is 5, then our range command is really 0, 5, and we can see the example here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in summary, we ran through a couple examples of for loops. We did a while loop, and we showed that each run of a loop is called one iteration. A break will stop a loop early, and a continue will stop that one iteration within the loop. Now, an infinite loop, if you see this one printed, it's while true, run forever. This would be an example of an infinite loop. And if you have an infinite loop in your program, it will appear to hang or stop or crash to the user. It's very important to have code within the loop that will check for this and make sure you do not have an infinite loop without a way to break out of it. And then we did the bonus with the vegetables to show how printing through a list is very easy in Python. And hopefully that example also showed how the range command appears to work, where it actually will go from this number to this number, but in most cases will not actually include a 5. However, you are doing 5 iterations. You're just starting with a 0. Thank you.